Welcome to our class today. Welcome back to the Apologists. Welcome to our study on the doctrine of hell in the modern church. I want to start off this particular presentation by naming some disclaimers. I am not teaching that people will not be lost. That's not what I'm teaching. I am not trying to encourage people to live sinfully because there is going to be no consequences for their sins. I'm not teaching that. I'm not teaching that no one will be lost. There are two views in Christendom. One is that pertaining to the wicked and the unsaved. One view is that they will be burned up. They will be annihilated. They will be done away with, according to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10 and 11. And another view is that they will go to burn in fire in eternity forever and forever and forever, which is not found anywhere in the Bible. And that's the other view. I think basically the difference in what I'm saying and what I used to teach and what most of us teach is that the idea of the unsaved burning in fire forever and ever and ever and ever and ever with no end date and not getting out past after Jesus has actually culminated and done away with the fall and everything in the fall to bring in the new heaven and new earth. There won't be any one over in heaven burning in fire. I think that idea is what I'm really trying to prove to you is not biblical, is the idea that people consciously burning in the eternal state. That idea was an idea that was put into theology by the pagans and Plato and those guys. But the apostles didn't teach that. That's basically what I'm driving in my teaching. And so what I do is I try to show in the scriptures that the idea of Plato's hell is not in the scriptures. And when I say it's not in the scriptures, what I'm saying is I'm not saying that it is not. I'm not saying that it's not a part of the original, the modern Bibles. That Plato's hell ideal, the ideal of hell, which was actually created by Plato, is in your modern Bible because it was put there by it being injected into passages that looked like that was what it was saying to those who were translating it. But in the original text of the Bible, in the original Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, and in the translation called the Alexandrian translation, which was a pretty good translation done by Origen, the church father, the word hell is nowhere in there. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say the Bible is something wrong with the Bible. Nothing wrong with the original inerrant word of God, the Bible. Now, if you go from here and tell people that Brown is saying that something's wrong with the Bible, then you're not listening. A lot of the misunderstanding is because people are not really listening. They don't even know what I'm saying. They don't even understand what I'm saying. And sometimes people accuse you of things. Oh, he's like Carlton Pearson. Oh, he's down in the Bible. Oh, he should be avoided. I'm not down in the Bible. Everything I'm saying is true. It just so happened to be that a lot of people have never taken out the time to research this stuff. That's not my fault. But I'm not saying that the original text of the Bible, which I know is well preserved, we can go to it. If you go to the original text of the Bible, you will not find that word there. The only way you find that word is when you go to these translated versions that were translated 1600 years from the time of the apostles, and like the King James Version, it was actually translated and printed in 1611. That's 1600 years from the original, when the original acts of the Bible, even further than that, we start talking about the Old Testament. And so when they thought that those words should be in there, they put those words in there in passages that looked like it was talking about that. like the passage of the story of the Rich Man and Lazarus. They put the word hell in that passage because they thought that that was appropriate to the passage, and they thought that was what Jesus was talking about. But in the original text, the word is not there. That's what I mean by that. I don't mean to upset the church or the saints by saying, oh, the Bible is no good. That's not what I'm saying. The Bible is solid, it's true, and it's powerful. But the translated texts, those that they took and tried to say what the Bible was saying in different languages, those, when that happened, then they started dropping words and stuff in that they thought should be in order to communicate what they thought it should have said, even though they were doing what you call inductive translations. In other words, inductive means they were inducing. Instead of taking from the scriptures what the scriptures are actually saying, they were putting in those passages, in their translated and published texts, what they thought it should have been saying. And that's what I mean. And I know that's tough. And it's not my fault that they did it. Because I'm finding it, I should be the one blamed for it or mistreated because I'm finding it. I didn't do it. They did it. I'm just reporting them. Rest assured that the faith of the saints, the apostolic faith, the Pentecostal faith is sound and true and according to the original Bible. And almost all of what we teach is according to that Bible and according to the original Bible. Okay, it's also then is also according to the translated text. You can find the truth. You don't have to worry about us being in a lie. We're in the truth. But there are some things that have been done in translations and the writing of commentaries that have left an impression upon us that was really not true. And one of those is the doctrine of hell. The word hell was not even made until about 726. And so, and then translated and put into Bibles like in the later hundreds of years. So the Bible is solid, the Bible is real, the Bible is true. The original text is solid, real, and true. And even those texts that have the word hell in them, mostly about 99% of everything else in them is true and solid and real. And so, but at the same time, that particular word was not in the original text of the Bible. And I know a lot of us didn't know this. A lot of pastors didn't know it. A lot of people didn't know it because they didn't go deep enough into the history of the Bible and the development of the Bible and the development of the theology and the intent of the theology of St. Augustine, who was one of the main ones to help write this up in about the 5th century. He was the key man to writing doctrine for the Catholic Church in the 5th century. And it came basically from him, actually from Plato, who created the idea of end and suffering in fire. And then he filtered it through to Christendom through Augustine and the Catholic Church, because at that time they had the authority, the cloud, and they were the ones in the helm of the development of what they call systematic theology. So they were in a position to pour this all out there and putting in books and commentaries and things like that. So they were in the position. They were so much in the position that in your history books they're called the church. Okay? They were in a backslidden state at that time. That was one of the most corrupt times in history, the 5th century of Christian, the history of Christianity. It was one of the most corrupt times. And many historians and theologians, even Catholic historians and theologians, and the writers of Catholic history recognize that was one of the most corrupt times where the most poison was put into Christendom than there ever was before that. And so they know that. And I know it's a little frightful sometimes for someone to go outside the realm of our teachings and outside of the realm of what we are used to and what we can accept, and then go out. And then that's what happens when you're an apologist. You go out and you find these things and you bring them back to the body of Christ. I don't know what else to do with it. I don't think that to cover it up would be the appropriate thing. But I do apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused to any of our churches, our brethren, maybe to my wife, any inconvenience, any mistreatment that any of you receive because of my sharing this. I do not intend to hurt anyone. I just don't know what else to do. I took the call as an apologist. I didn't know this was going to be in on it. I took it, and I've got to do what I'm called to do. And I would like to be a little bit kinder, or maybe not. As somebody said, don't say that. Don't say the word. Hell is not the Bible. That's a horrible thought. One man said, it's a dangerous doctrine. Not as dangerous as you think. Not as dangerous as you think. But, I would like to be kinder. In other words, not say things. But I'm like a doctor. If a doctor talks to a patient and find out they have cancer in the second stage, and then the doctor say, you just got a cough. Sometimes you have to call things for what they are in order to help to cure them. And it's not always easy. I have my doctors who have a straight face and will sit there and talk to you with a straight face and tell you what your situation really is. When I went to the hospital, my daughter was hit in a car accident, and I ran to the emergency room, and she was there, and the doctor came with a straight face and said, she has no way she's going to live. I didn't really catch it. I didn't catch it at the time. I just said, oh, well, just wait to keep her on. They said, do you want us to do a CPR and all that? I said, oh, just do all you can to help her because I'm praying for her. She's going to survive. Okay, I didn't catch what the doctor was saying. But I appreciate the doctor telling me the truth, not saying, well, she's got a few bruises. We'll give her an aspirin and you'll be able to take her home in the morning. She didn't tell me that. You told me she's not going to make it. So sometimes doctors tell us the truth. And when they tell us the truth, then it's best to tell the truth. And like I said, I don't know what else to do. And I wish I could be more kinder, but I can't be kinder. I can't be so kind because I may not have the time. I have to work the work of him that sent me while it's day. For the night comes when no man can work. That means that once you're dead, you can't do it. I mean, I don't know how long I have. And if God has given me the call of an apostolic apologist, I can't back out now. I can't recant now. I ask you for your prayers. I'm in a situation where I can't recant. I can't say, well, I don't want to say that. I take that back because I don't want to be mistreated. See, a few doors closed on me because the people don't understand. So I'm going to take that back. I don't want to go through that. No, I can't do it. Whatever it be, it will be. All right? God bless you. Pray for me. I'm your brother in Christ. I mean no harm to the body of Christ. I only mean you good. And I think I will only do you good if you consider what I say. Consider what I say in my teachings, and the Lord will give you understanding. So today I want to explain the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. And the reason why I want to explain the parable of the rich man and Lazarus is because the parable of the rich man and Lazarus is the parable that many of us refer to when we want to prove that the doctrine of hell is in the Bible. It is the wording in the parable that says, and the rich man died, and he lifted up his eyes in hell. This is the phrase in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus that causes many to believe that he's talking about Plato's idea of hell in the passage. But what I want to explain to you is the reason why I know that it's not talking about hell there, the idea of hell that we have in the Western world. First of all, you have to look at the chapter and look at the text, look at the context of the text. This story is written in the book of St. Luke, and it is a part of a parable. It is a part of a parable set. It is the fifth parable in a parable set. It is one parable with a set of 5 stories. The parable starts in St. Luke chapter 15. In St. Luke chapter 15, in verse 1, it tells the setting of this story. The parable set is a set of 5 stories that have the same message. They're telling parts of the same message in it. All right? So what is the message of this parable set? What happens here is the parable set starts in Luke chapter 15, in verse 1, where the Jews are asking, why is Jesus taking out time with the sinners and the publicans? Why is he preaching to them? Why? We should have nothing to do with the Gentiles, the sinners. The sinners here means the Gentiles. Luke is the writer, and Luke's main mission in the entire book is to prove Gentile salvation. Okay, so Jesus here being a prophet in an Old Testament set. This is an Old Testament setting here. The New Testament did not come in yet. The church is not born yet. Personal salvation is not his mission, but he's speaking to this group corporately. And he's answering them as to why he's taking out time with the Gentiles. He calls them sinners. He says that God would rather, he's coming to seek and to save that which were lost. He rejoices over one sinner that repents more than 99 righteous men who need no repentance. Now here in this case, the sinners that are repenting are the Gentiles, and the righteous men are the Jews, who are in the position where they think that they are greater than the Gentiles, and they've got all the things of God and everything like this. So in this parable set, he tells 5 stories. Number 1 story, I think it was the lost coin, the lost sheep, then the prodigal son, then the unjust steward, then the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, the story of the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. All right? All of these stories are being told about what? About the Gentiles. In the lost coin, the Gentiles is the coin that was lost, that the set of coins, the set of 10 coins that a woman received when she was engaged, this set of 10 coins, she had to keep the 10 coins until she was married. If she lost one coin, the wedding was off. So it was a horrible thing. So it tells a story about this woman who had these coins, and she lost one of them, and she had to search and search and search and search and search and find it, because if she didn't have the whole set, the wedding was off. What that was saying was that the Gentiles are the coin that was lost. And if the Gentiles are not found, the wedding is going to be off. So in other words, he's saying the Gentiles will be saved. Then we'll go to the parable of the lost sheep. The lost sheep, those that were lost from the Tower of Babel when the world was totally Gentile. Before the Tower of Babel, the world was totally Gentile, but at the Tower of Babel, the whole world was scattered. There was no Jew and Gentile at that point. The Jew issue of the Jewish nation started in Genesis chapter 12 with the call of Abraham. So the prodigal son represents all of the Gentiles, the whole world that was scattered from God. And so all of the Gentiles that were scattered from God, but there was the Jews via Abraham who were with God all the way up from that point down to those dispensations up to this point now that Jesus brings in this about the coming home of the Gentiles. The Jews were always there. All right? The Jews were always there, and they had everything. And so what Jesus is saying is that the prodigal son, the one who left home, comes back home, and then the elder brother who was always there is upset with them. That's the Jews who were upset with the Gentiles, want to criticize Jesus for being with the Gentiles, didn't want Gentiles to be saved. And so they came in, they were there all the time. But Jesus is saying that the prodigal son, he's speaking in a corporate fashion here now. The prodigal son, which all the Gentiles are going to come into the church, and they're going to get the fatted calf. They're going to get the fatted calf. The fatted calf is the rejoicing of the Gentiles coming in. Let me go back up to the lost. Okay, so that is actually the church. The fatted calf is the rejoicing of the Gentiles coming in. All right? Remember now, Jesus is on the subject of the Gentiles. Okay? He's on the subject of the Gentiles and the Jews. And he's explaining why he's taking out time with the Gentiles. In these 5 stories, he's trying to get them to see it. All right? So then he talks about the sheep that was lost. When the sheep was lost, he was looking for the sheep. He searched and searched and searched till he found it. When he found it, he took it and he put it on his shoulder. That was a place of favor and protection. This is corporate we're talking about now. He's not talking about individual salvation. Individual salvation wasn't to be taught to until the New Testament church. I know we use this for individual salvation. We use it in altar calls, but the real original meaning was corporate and was pertaining to the Gentiles, of which he takes and puts on his shoulder. And what he's saying to them is that the Gentiles are going to be brought in corporately, and I'm going to find them. And this is what I'm doing. When you see me, as they refer to in verses 1, 2, and 3, you see me addressing the Gentiles. I'm seeking for them. This is God in me trying to get the Gentiles. And he's explaining to them that he's after the Gentiles. And so, now remember, Luke was a Gentile writer who was writing this book to the Gentile church, who was having trouble with the Jews who were saying they had no right to being in the church. So this is why Luke is writing this. So then when we go and we find out, now let's go, we've done the lost coin. When the lady found the coin, she finally found it, they rejoiced. In other words, when the Gentiles are brought into the church at Pentecost, the Lord rejoices because they're found. He's got a complete set now to be saved. All right? So the total salvation of man will be man as one in the finality of things. So we'll talk about that. We talk about the eschatology of salvation, the salvation plan. But anyway, but that's the total. And these are the ideas that Jesus is setting forth when he's talking about these parables, right? So he talks in the first 3 stories about the Gentiles being found, the Gentiles being found and put on the shoulder, and the Gentiles coming home in the first 3 parables. Then in the last 2 parables, the unjust steward and the rich man and Lazarus, he talks directly to those Jews who were criticizing them, and he tells them, yes, I'm seeking after the Gentiles, and as far as you're concerned, you are like, he tells them the story of the unjust steward whose owner, whose supervisor, who owned everything, found that they were crooked and they were being unfair and they were doing things that were not. He says you're going to get fired. He was talking to the Pharisees there, telling them, you're going to get fired because you have had all that I can give you, and you have mismanaged everything that I gave to you as the people of Israel, and so you are going to be fired. You might as well make friends of the Gentiles too. This is what he's telling them in the parable of the story of the unjust steward, which is the 4th story in the parable set. Then he gets down. This is all, remember now, this is all about the coming of the Gentiles and the salvation of the Gentiles, and he's predicting the fate of the Jews. The fate of the Jews, all right, in this particular set. All right, he's coming down to the wire. He's telling them now that the time of your foolishness is about to end. So he told them that he referred to the unjust steward, who were the Pharisees, and he told them that they had better get on and make friends with the Gentiles too, because they're going to be in a position to where you're going to need them. Right? So now we go down to the parable of the Protestant, the rich man and Lazarus. How does this relate to Gentile salvation and God seeking for the Gentiles and the ousting of the Jews? Well, in the parable, on the parable story of the rich man and Lazarus, the fifth story in the parable set, he's now talking again corporately. He's talking again as a Old Testament prophet who was wooing Israel and warning Israel in her last days of the dispensation of the law. This story is told under the dispensation of the law. And what Jesus is saying is that the rich man who had everything, he described the rich man. He's describing now the Pharisees, especially the Judean Pharisees, who wore their purple robes, and they had a temple that the Gentiles couldn't come on the temple court. They can only come on the outside gate. They begged for the things that fell, crumbs that fell from the rich man's table, and they were separated from them even by a wall, referred to as the middle wall, a partition which would part it the way different from the Jew and the Gentiles under the law. He says, so the rich man, there was a rich man who fed sumptuously every day. The rich man had everything. He had the law of Moses. He had all of the wealth. He had Moses. He had the law. He had Abraham. He had all of that. And the Jew was a poor beggar, had nothing. He just laid outside the gate, and the dogs ate the sores that was on his body. That showed you a position of underprivilegedness. The Gentiles were the beggars, and the reason why the Lord calls them the Gentiles Lazarus is because just as he did in all the other four stories, he helped the Gentiles. He found them. He welcomed them. He put them on his shoulder. And so the word Lazarus means the Lord will help. And in this case, the Lord will help the Gentiles. And so there's a message in this. And so Lazarus, but then he goes and he says, and Lazarus died. And Lazarus died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man died also and was buried. Now, look at that. What is the death of Lazarus in the context of which Jesus was speaking? The death of Lazarus and the rich man is the ending of the law, which happened simultaneously. The death means this ends. The system ends here. Jesus was telling the Pharisees that it's going to end. No individual is dying in real life here, but he's using this parable to say that corporate Israel, your time will end here. When will it end? It'll end at the end of the dispensation of the law, which ends which ends and the beginning of the church. Well, first of all, let's look at the end. At the end of the dispensation of the law, at the end of the reign of the Pharisees in their wealth, will also be simultaneously, by default, the end of Lazarus' poverty as the Gentiles. So the end here is the end. The death here is the end of both of their circumstances. It is the end of both of their corporate circumstances. The end of the corporate circumstance of the Jews and the end of the corporate circumstance of the Gentiles, who were poor under the law and under the time when the Gentiles were wealthy and when the Jews were wealthy and had everything. So the end of it is the death of it. That's why both Lazarus and the rich man died, and they died at the same time. But what happens, this death is almost like saying the end of, say if you work for a company and you were going to retire at a certain point, they would say if he was a truck driver and the truck driver died, that means the truck driver in the truck driving scenario is no longer the case. He's dead. But he went and became a school teacher. All right? So the death is the end of this first lifestyle or life situation. But the becoming the school teacher is the new life. The new life. So The death of the rich man is the end of the law and what they had under the law. Then, when the rich man is buried, he's buried, and that's his new situation. Now, it may sound kind of tough, but you'll catch it. That's his new situation actually on the earth. All right? And Lazarus, he died out to poverty. He's no longer impoverished. He's no longer a beggar, but he is now in the bosom of Abraham. This is corporate talk here now. When I say corporate, I mean he's talking about the people of Israel and the people of the Gentiles. The Jews and the corporate status of the Jews and the corporate status of the Gentiles, which changes at what point? At the death of the rich man and the death of Lazarus, which is at the end of the law and the start of the New Testament church, which is at Pentecost. So this death occurs at Pentecost. Lazarus is no longer poor and beggar, but now Lazarus is in the church, in the New Testament church, and that is his new situation. He is now in the place of favor, the New Testament church, which is referred to here as the bosom of Abraham. And the rich man is in his grave. He's in his grave. In his grave, the grave here represents the status of the rich man as far as the status of the Jews from the ending of the law to the second coming of Christ. They are in a dead state. They're in a dead state. They're dead to the promises. They're separated and dead to the promises of Abraham. That's why they're in a gulf, separated from Abraham. The rich man looks up out of his grave, his deadness. They're scattered. They've been scattered across the world. Jerusalem has been taken down in AD 70. And all of those things that they had, they're now dead to them. They're dead. And they're going to be dead in that state until the second coming of Christ, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And so Lazarus is in the bosom of Abraham. This is the times of the Gentiles. This is the time where Abraham is they're in the bosom of Abraham, and they're enjoying the blessings of the people of God. Abraham's bosom represents the place of the people of God on the earth. Abraham does not represent heaven. No. That's not heaven. Abraham doesn't control heaven. He's not a steward of heaven. God is over heaven. Abraham is representing the place of the chosen people of God here on the earth. Check all the promises of Abraham and the covenant of Abraham, and you'll know that he does not represent heaven. Everything that Abraham is promised, everything that's in the covenant of Abraham is related to the earth. The church is the body of Christ on the earth, is the blessed body that is in the promises of Abraham, because Abraham is the holder or the representative of the blessings of God, of the people of God on the earth. So the Gentiles are in the bosom of Abraham here on the earth in the church. And the Jews are in a grave here on the earth by being scattered and by being dispersed and all of those things that make them dead. If you want to know about, and so anyway, what happens is that the rich man, he cries out and he says he's in a flame. Now, he lifts up his eyes in hell. Let me explain what the word hell is. The word hell there actually was not in the original text. The grave, Hades is the word, is where he was. And Hades is symbolic of the death and of the deadness of the Jews corporately. Hell was put in there because they didn't understand. They didn't understand. They were trying to get us to think that if this was talking about an individual burning in fire in hell, trying to use this corporate passage to deal and show us a personal individual's eternal destiny in hell, when that was most certainly not what Jesus was trying to say. He was trying to say that the corporate state of the Jews during the church age and during the time that they're out is that they are dead to, and they can't come out of that grave. They can't come out of that grave now because Moses, because remember now, Abraham, which when he said Abraham, he called out to Abraham, he says, he called Abraham and a father, and Abraham called him son. That this is showing that he's talking to the Jews, the corporately speaking to the Jews in the parable. And he tells them that you had Moses and you had The prophets, that was the Jews he's talking about. He's not talking about sinners here. He's talking about the Jews, all that they had. And then the rich man cries out and said, well, I've got 5 brothers. He's speaking here to the Jews through speaking to the tribe of Judah, which was the tribe that led them astray. And so Judah had 5 brothers. And he talks about those. He wanted to send a message to the 5 brothers. So he's talking to the Jews here, corporately speaking to the Jews. This parable story is a message to the Jews that your time is coming to an end. And you are going to be bound. And the death of the rich man, of the burial of the rich man, the death of the rich man is the ending of the law. And the burial of the rich man is the rich man being in a dead state, corporately, spiritually, and even in the world. He's in a dead state. He's scattered. They have to go and wail at the Wailing Wall, and they have to quote Psalm 79. And when they talk about the fire of God, it's judgment upon them. I think it's verse number 5. And they almost are like they were in the Psalms 137. We wept as we remembered Zion, and we hung our harps by the willow tree. And then this is also described in the Lamentations of Jeremiah, the weeping of the Jews and the pain. This is also meant by Jesus in Matthew's, I think, 8:13, where he talks about the sons of the kingdom shall be cast into outer darkness, and where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is the weeping and the remorse of the Jews when he talks about, I'm tormented in this flame. The word tormented there means emotional torment, emotional regret. It does not mean a physical burning in a fire. It's emotional. It's regret. It's just like the crying of Esau when he lost his birthright to Jacob. It's just like the weeping and the gnashing of teeth that Jesus talked about when he was talking about the Jews would be cast into, would be cast out of the wedding feast. I think in Matthew 22, I think 13, cast out of the wedding feast, cast out into outer darkness. This is the Jews being out. The Jews being out and being ousted from Jerusalem, ousted from the favor of God, being the favorite people of God. That's what Jesus is talking about here. He's not talking about an individual burning down in fire in the afterlife. The life and the afterlife here is actually on earth. It is a messianic message of Jesus to the Jews. Messianic means it is related to the Jews and their destiny in relationship to the millennial and the Jews' reign here on the earth. Everything that's pertaining to the Jews, that is actually pertaining to the Jews, is something relative to this on the earth. That's the reason why they go into the millennial kingdom. The church get raptured out, but they go into the millennial. Eventually, all of us will be in heaven, but here on earth, the Jews go into the millennial. So it is actually still the things that will happen on their schedule going to the millennial. This death of the rich man includes them being scattered, includes them being blinded, includes them being trodden under by the foot of the Gentiles. It includes what happened at the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. It includes the Holocaust. It includes the tribulation period where they'll be so badly mutilated, and they suffer right now. The suffering of the Jews is depicted at even the Wailing Wall. Read about the Wailing Wall. Anyway, this is corporate, and it's about the Jews, and it's about their loss of place, and how the Jews look up out of the grave. The word Hades means grave. Okay, the holding place of the dead. They look up out of their dead place. The word hell is not in the text, so you can't use that. And they're tormented. The torment there was the word barsano that Jesus used, which means emotional grief. This is not a pain from burning fire. Jesus was talking about their emotional regret. The Jews will experience corporately, while the Gentiles corporately are saved in the church. So Jesus is not talking about personal salvation of individuals. He wasn't teaching that. Remember now, Jesus was teaching under the law. Galatians 4:4. He was teaching under the law. He was teaching under the law. He wasn't evangelizing and passing the tracts, trying to get people not to go to heaven or hell. That wasn't what Jesus was doing. He was speaking corporately to Israel in this passage. But the way this got messed up was that St. Augustine, I don't know if you knew it, but St. Augustine and Tertullian and all of the church fathers, I would just recommend you go on Google and look up anti-Semitic church fathers. In other words, the church fathers who hated the Jews. They hated the Jews with such a hatred, a deep hatred, that in their theology, they overwrote what this passage was all about and plugged in there the hell theory and said that this is talking about men going to hell. But they hated the Jews so bad. What point does that have to do with this? That they covered up this message, which was about the Jews. They tried to erase the messianic message that Jesus was giving to the Jews so that they can say, because they thought that God was through with the Jews, hated the Jews, and nothing in the Bible that was pertaining to the Jews is pertaining to them anymore. So they thought, they wrote what we call replacement theology. They replaced the original meaning of this passage with the meaning of hell being in the text. They replaced that in their systematic theology and in their commentaries. And what we received when we came on the scene was the replacement theology, that the passage is about hell. We didn't receive the original message about the passage because that was covered up by the 5th century church fathers who hated the Jews and intended by covering up the real message and plugging in the word hell in there where the word Hades was, which meant something altogether different than what they were trying to teach from Plato and Augustine. They tried to cover it up in what they called replacement theology. And so the real meaning of the parable story of the rich man and Lazarus is messianic and is about the Jews and their plight and the deadness that they will experience from the start of the church to the second coming of Christ, where Abraham says, you can't come out, you can't come here, and we can't come there. You had your chance. You had Moses, you had the law, you had all of that, but you didn't treat it right. Therefore, you, as the rich man, have been abased, and the Gentiles have been carried to Abraham's bosom. You, Jews, are the unjust steward who was fired. You are the rich man who is now in your grave, corporately and spiritually. You can't come out until the end of the tribulation period. God bless you and keep you. We're just trying to show that this scripture is not about Plato's ideal of hell, but it is messianic and it is corporate, pertaining to the place of the Gentiles in the bosom of Abraham, which is the church, not heaven, which is the church, and the place of the Jews, which is in their grave. God bless you and keep you in Jesus' name. Thank you for listening to The Apologist.